All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. But one last call. If anyone needs the presentation in Spanish, please come down to the front so we can make sure that you get the information too. We have Mrs. Claudia Gramalia here, and she's fantastic, and we want to, so want to be able to help in that. So just, come on down, and I'm gonna go ahead and pass the microphone over to Miss Seahack, Miss Janine Seahack, and she'll kick it off for us.
Let me move the microphone down a little though, so sorry. All right, and welcome to College Planning and Financial Aid Night. Woo, we're excited. So before we begin, I'd just like to introduce the counseling department. So we are going to be some of your go-to people to help guide you guys. I know that post-high school planning can be a bit overwhelming, and that's why we're here to help you guys out. So I'm Miss Seahack, and I have students with the last names A through DA. We also have Miss Kurtz, she has students DI through H. We have Miss Biebel, who has students I through N. We have Miss Olson, who has students O through R. We have Mr. Corey, who has students S through Z. Miss Mackey, who's the Student Success Center counselor, and Mr. Lugie, who is our IEP coordinator. Again, we're just going to be here to help you guys out with this journey. So also before we begin, a lot of times we post a lot of updates in our Google Classroom for the class of 2024, 2020, and 2025. So this is going to be where you can find some scholarship and any deadlines. So it's important that your students are in these. Right now, the class of 2024 is kind of having a little bit of a hiccup in theirs. But we're hoping in the next week that it kind of gets back up running. But if you can, I'm going to give you a minute, just take a picture of this, get the code on, make sure you're in this. It's really important. We're going to be talking about important dates in there, important deadlines, scholarships, jobs, anything, okay? All right. Anybody need another minute, or are we good to go? Okay. Okay, so anything that you're planning on doing after high school is going to need some sort of training, whether that be a 2-4-year college, an apprenticeship, trade school, military career. Any of the fastest growing jobs require post-secondary training, so it's important that we kind of find which one is the path that you guys are going to take. So some of those, to kind of figure out what we're going to do with that, is identifying some skills and interests to kind of find that path. So maybe you like working with your hands, maybe math is your thing, music. Those skills and interests help students identify the path that they're going to do after high school. Identifying any working conditions, values, lifestyle choices that are important, personal considerations, and also getting experience. So whether you're doing a job shadowing or maybe you volunteer at a nursing home, those exposures help you kind of find and identify what career path may be helpful for you. So if you don't like working with people or you're not really a people person, maybe not working with people is a good path for you, okay? Another great resource that actually the school district provides, every single student has this as an account, is Naviance. You may have heard us say it a lot in the counseling department. It is a great resource if maybe you don't know what you want to do yet. There's personality tests on there, there's interest surveys. So if you're kind of don't know what path you want to go on yet, starting out with this is a great resource. Also, there's scholarship information on there. There's College Match. You can put your information in there and it can kind of show you which type of college or career may be the best choice for you. And the best way to get into it is through your Clever account. So you can log in like how you normally would for your Chromebook, go onto your Clever, click on Clever through your single sign-on, and it should take you directly into there. You don't need to put in your username or password, okay? So some factors, if you're deciding on going to college, there's a lot of different factors that you can kind of narrow down your search in. So location, do you want to stay close to home? Do you want to go far away? Size and environment. Some students really enjoy having a big school, and other students really like a smaller school where they can maybe get one-on-one instruction more. Academics. Don't go to a school that doesn't have your major. That would be a good one. Expenses. So what is the school gonna help provide more, or is it gonna hinder you financially? How much financial aid are they willing to help support you to get to this school? We've seen time and time again where students apply to these schools and they're really excited, and come May, they can't afford it, they didn't get enough scholarship money, so they ended up not being able to go there. That's a huge factor. Housing, are you gonna live on campus? Are you gonna live off campus? Are you gonna live at home? Facilities, making sure that you go to the school and go on college visits is a huge indicator of where you're gonna go the next maybe 2 years, maybe 4 years. So you don't wanna go to campus your first day and realize that they have 2 desks in a classroom, or maybe their facility isn't as nice as you thought it would. You want to experience that before you get there. Also, activities. It's a huge transition from high school to college, so making sure that you can get involved there and they have things that you can be involved in so that it makes the transition a little bit easier. And also personal well-being. Another amazing website that you guys can use, it's through College Board, is Big Future. This also helps narrow down your college search, whether you can put in your location, the major that you're interested in, the type of school, and the campus life, and that can help you guys narrow down. It'll go from 3,000 colleges to 1,000 to 100. The more things that you put in there, the smaller colleges that you'll have. So you're not looking through 1,000 colleges and trying to narrow it down yourself, because there's a lot of colleges out there.
All right. So in addition to like looking at the factors that are important to you, gotta move it back up a little bit. There are minimum requirements each college has for admission, okay? And so it's important as you go through this process that you know what those requirements are, because they can vary from school to school. But at a minimum, most schools require 4 years of English, 3 to 4 years of math, 3 years of science, 3 years of social studies, and 2 years of either a foreign language, art, or music, okay? And so, but it does vary, because there are other schools out there, like the University of California system, that requires a year of fine arts, okay? And that is a mandatory requirement if your students are considering going to any of those schools. But some schools, so this is just showing you how detailed it can be. Like Mizzou also lists that requirement is a year of fine arts, but they will waive it for Illinois residents. So even though Mizzou lists it as a requirement to go to the school, they will allow Illinois to kind of not have it if a kid doesn't have it. So it's important to contact the school and be in communication with the admissions offices of the various schools to make sure you know exactly what your student needs to get admitted. Other things to consider when applying, as far as things that are valued by the schools, is a good GPA, grade trends like math grades, especially depending on the major, your students' leadership and activities. The essay, if the school is asking for an essay, is super important and can honestly be the thing that makes or breaks their application. And then in addition to all of that are recommendations from teachers, counselors, community members. It doesn't have to be like, if your student has a strong relationship with, somebody in church or at Habitat for Humanity or, some outside organization, they can also be a letter of recommendation if the school that they're applying to kind of allows that. But if the school says, we want, 2 academic references, then it has to be teachers. And so all of these qualifications, kind of are weighed depending on if the school asks for them. If the school doesn't ask for them, do not send them because they will not look at it and it's a waste of your time. So, for example, the University of Illinois does not ask for letters of recommendation, and they will tell you to your face, to our faces, doesn't matter, can we still send stuff? The answer is, yeah, you can send it, but we won't read it. We won't look at it. And so just make sure that, you're doing exactly what they say, and because your time is valuable, obviously. We're all very busy, and your students are extremely busy. Another thing that is pretty important is the SAT. It's kind of become less important, but I do know there are schools that use it, maybe not necessarily for admission, but they use it for scholarships and things like that. So it is still has some weight to it. And if your student took the SAT and your schools that you're looking at are valuing it still, there are some test dates still available this year that they could retake it if they need to. And this is I'm not going to read them all to you. You can definitely see that. But how they sign up is they log into their College Board account, and then they click sign up to test, and they just register for it. And we have fee waivers for those tests in our office. Okay. And then SAT practice, I almost skipped that part. That is a great resource for practicing for the SAT and getting ready for that. I will speak to the juniors in the room. I know there's quite a few of you, and you will be taking the SAT for free this April with the school. And so if you wanted to get a practice in before that, you wanted to actually sit for an SAT, you can also sign up for one of these tests as well. And you can have a fee waiver if needed, or, and Khan Academy is a great resource for you as well, as far as it's called SAT practice. And that basically this organization partners with SAT with old practice tests and a variety of resources to help you be successful. In addition to all that, like I kind of started to say, it's not as important as it used to be. There are a variety of schools that are, and most of them are still test optional, or they give you a variety of choices. Some are starting to take that away. So you definitely check with the school that you are thinking about attending on whether it is still test optional. What does test optional mean? Because it really could mean a few different things. So test optional could be you can submit it or not submit it. They don't care. They're not going to ask you to declare your decision of whether you're submitting or not submitting. And so that's one version of test optional. Another version of test optional is you have to tell the school if you are going to be test optional or you're going to submit the test. What does that mean? So I'm just going to use University of Illinois as an example. There's a question on the application. Do you want to be test optional? If you mark yes, doesn't matter if you get a perfect score, 1600 the next time you take it or anything, if you submit that test score, they're not going to look at that. They're only going to look at GPA. Okay? So there's no going back from that, I want to be test optional. Okay? But let's just say you mark, well, I kind of like my test score. So you mark, I want to not be test optional. I want to submit my test score, and you click that button. There's no going back from that either. You get to choose, but then you have to, in order for your application to be complete, you have to do whatever the steps say. I will say schools that are test optional in that regard, they put a great deal of weight on grades, and they don't just look at your overall GPA, they actually break it down to okay, what did they get in algebra? What did they get in geometry? What did they get in chemistry? Like, they actually look at individual courses, individual grades, what type of classes they took, and all of that to determine admission, and instead of, having the test score and grades. So it's definitely something to think about and talk about with your student and the admissions person of those types of schools that have that sort of test optional practice, okay? And then there are schools that don't have test optional, and they do require the test scores. But more and more, that's like MIT and in a few other schools. I mean, they're starting to come, like, they're starting to be more of them. So definitely check that out. We get this question a lot in our office, is how many applications, like, can I apply, is there a limit? The answer is no, there's no limit. You can apply to 100 schools if you want. We don't recommend that, but you can apply for as many as you want. The problem is each application costs a fee, and we'll talk about that. Someone else will. But our recommendation is you have 3 types of schools. If you don't really know where you're landing yet, you have a reach school, a school that you don't know if you can pay for or you can get into. It's something that you're just like, it's like a dream. Like, this is the dream, and your students have worked super hard here at Collinsville High School, and they deserve to try to make their dreams come true. You don't know. I've seen that in my practice. Like, things have surprised me. Either kids get in and get a great offer, or kids don't get in, and I'm like, how did that happen? But so like, there's like the stretch school. Then there's the match school, where it's pretty good. Like, they can get in, and maybe they can afford it, or maybe they can afford it, maybe they can get. I mean, it's kind of like a middle of the road. And then there's the true safety school, where you can afford it, and you can get in 100% without a doubt. Like, you are 500% certain. And we recommend that you have a couple on each category, if for sure. And if, do you have to have that? No. Again, it's your cycle. It's your application experience. If maybe you're an athlete and you've already committed to one school and you're only going to apply to one school, that's okay. You apply to 20? Yes. It doesn't. It's up to you and your student to make those decisions. But this is just like recommendations. As you apply, you're going to run into a variety of application options. And this slide is kind of it's a little daunting. But basically, there's some different options that you're going to see as you fill out applications, depending on the type of school that you're applying to. The first, and I'm just going to kind of talk about the different options. One is early decision. And this is basically, you apply. If you click this option, early decision means you find out early, which is great. The downside of this application indicator is if you mark it, there's a bunch of signatures. You would sign, the student would sign, I would have to sign, and basically it commits you to paying regardless of cost. So yes, you find out earlier. Yes, it's probably with a smaller applicant pool, because all the early decision students are, reviewed at the same time. So it is a smaller applicant pool as far as this designation. So are your chances of getting in better? Probably, maybe. I can't speak to that really, because it depends on the school. But you are committed to paying whatever it is that they say, because you have signed a legal document. And the downside of that is if you get a bill for $70,000, then you have to pay that. And you have to, basically what will happen is the kids will write all the other schools that they have applied to, saying, I got into XYZ school, and I am now, I have to resend my application. And so my advice is, if you are looking at early decision, definitely be talking to that school. And you can only do one school this way, I will say. You can only mark one school as early decision if that is one of the things you're looking at. And I would be talking to the school that you are looking at doing that with. If you are considering that, talk to their financial aid office. Make sure that if you were to get in, like you can afford it, like have these conversations ahead of time before clicking that box and hitting submit. So that's early decision. Now there is something very similar that's called early action. Early action is slightly different. You find out early. That word is still the same. You find out early, but early action means the difference is it doesn't commit you to going there if you find out, you get in. You just find out you get in early, and then you can decide later once you hear back from all the schools that you've been admitted to, and you can make a decision based on costs and other interests and things like that, what Ms. Seahack was talking about. So, that's definitely a key difference. There's no basically you're not locked into any school. Then there's, early decision, early action, rolling admission. I'll skip that one for a second. Regular decision is a regular, just like a normal deadline. And at that point, there's no finding out early. You'll find out when most students find out, and there's a general release admission decision. Last but not least, rolling admissions. That decision process is schools that you can apply at any time. There's no deadline. There's no real you can apply in June and still get in. Okay, so it's just kind of they keep admitting students until it's 100% full. Okay, and so that's kind of the different processes that are out there that you'll probably see as you fill out applications. As you go through this process, if you have any questions about any of this, please reach out to your counselor. We know it's super confusing because similar wording and all of that, and we are happy to walk you through that process. One other thing that you're going to kind of run into is the Common App, potentially. More so now than ever before. There are more and more schools in the Common App, and what this is an application that you can basically fill out to apply to, we'll just say 10 schools with one application. It is a lot of work, though, so it may not be beneficial to your student to fill out this application. My advice is before you just jump in and do it, talk to your counselor, talk to other people, because some applications literally take 10 minutes. They don't require an essay. For example, SIUE, I'm just going to use that as an example. Mizzou, they do not require an essay. They do not require letters of recommendation. They don't, and it's just you fill out a simple thing, and within 10 minutes you're done. The Common App is a different thing altogether. There's a variety of fields, from activities to an essay to letters of recommendation potentially to it'll take hours to fill out the Common App. And so and SIUE and Mizzou are both on the Common App, and so I would just kind of be mindful of your students' time, if at all possible, before just jumping into an application without really knowing what that school has to offer. Sometimes this is all you have, and that's okay. And this has a lot of benefit because it is one application that could go out to a variety of schools, and it does save time. It just really depends on the school and the type of application that they're going to have to do. Okay, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Biebel.
All right. Not as short as Miss Seahack, so it doesn't go down as far. It's okay. We love you for it. All right, so I just skipped one right there. So a lot of the questions we get or the comments we receive is, I don't even know where to start. Where do I find colleges? What do I do? How do things happen? This is just a basic breakdown Again, we have a whole bunch of considerations in place. Hopefully by now you've kind of figured out where you're wanting to go. So our step one would be to find the application. Usually these colleges are trying to sell themselves to you. So when you log on to their website, there's going to be a big ol' apply now. On SIUE's website, it is bright red. You know, at SWIC, they also have apply now as well. So it is pretty easy to see where you can do that. Again, Common Application is an option. I've already had a couple students apply through the Common App, but like Ms. Olson said, we really push you to apply through the schools if you can, just to save you some time and some grief and a little bit of tiring from this whole process. Step number 2, we're going to fill out the application. Any supplemental forms and request letters of recommendation. Give us at least 2 weeks to take care of this for you, because we want to give you letters of recommendation that really sell you as a student. So just like in your classes, is it better if you knock out something 15 minutes before it's due? Or is it better if you take your time, do your research, and get somebody else to read over it? It's usually better if you do the second step. So please give us time. We have letter recommendation request forms that you can fill out just to tell us a little bit more about you. If you can give us a resume, if you can tell us all about the cool things that you do with your life, it's going to make for the best letter of recommendation you've ever read. And honestly, I love it because I get to know you guys on a different level than just talking about classes or just, hey, how are you doing in the hallway? It's awesome. So the next step is going to be to send your transcript. So if you guys don't know what a transcript is, it is a piece of paper that has your academic progress through the last 4 years. It's going to talk about all the different classes you've taken, whether or not they're enriched or AP, the grades you got in them. If you've been absent, it's going to be on there for some things. It's going to be you on a piece of paper. That's how they see it. So in order to get your transcript, at the end of your senior year, we do offer kind of a form for you to fill out where you tell us where you want your final transcript sent. But in this time, you're going to be requesting your transcript, you the student, because you're the one spearheading this whole thing, from our counseling website. It's linked there. It's our regular counselor's website. Students have to fill it out because it does track your Google sign-in stuff, so that way we know who you are. Because if I get a Tiffany Sanderson, that's your mom. I don't have a transcript for her. What am I supposed to send? So please fill that out. If you have questions about it, you can always come down. We're happy to help figure that out. And it's going to be the same kind of procedure when you're looking at scholarships. So we're going to talk about that one here in a second too. So when you are applying, here are some things that you need to consider. The number one being, make sure you're keeping track of deadlines. That is going to make or break this whole process. If you miss a deadline for an application to be due, scholarship to be due, that's terrible because that automatically takes you out of the running. If you miss deadlines for financial aid, you can miss out on thousands of dollars. So it's always important, even if you have a calendar at home, that you write these deadlines in. SIUE's financial aid or a scholarship is due November 15th. I need to make sure I'm getting on that. You want to make sure you fill out the application completely, because that is an issue. If you forget your name on an application, what are they going to do? They're going to throw it away. So we want to make sure you're filling out everything completely and as best as you can to your knowledge. So also, kind of while you're going through it, kind of make notes of any additional counselor forms that we might need to fill out for you. If you have a homeless designation, we might need to get that sent over to the school. If you need a letter of recommendation, if you need anything else, just make sure you're noting that somewhere. And it's kind of important if you have a notebook just to start with all this stuff. That way you can have one place you can easily get to. SAT, ACT scores. Will they take it from us because that's on your transcript, or do they want it directly sent from College Board? And that's something that you'll have to request through College Board. If you have free and reduced lunch, you can have application fees waived. Some of these fees are, pretty cheap, but a lot of them, if you're applying to a lot of schools, you could be shelling out 30, 40, 50 bucks sometimes for each application. So if you get free and reduced lunch, that's important you talk to us too. We can get your fees waived. Any essays, please make sure somebody reads your essays. I am old, I know that. I still make my friends read any kind of thing I send out. Ms. Olson has been doing this for an amazing amount of time. She's a pro. She has us go over some stuff from here and there. It's really important that somebody else is kind of keeping an eye on things, making sure your punctuation's good, your grammar's great, that kind of thing. And you can even work with Miss Biondi in the Writing Resource Center. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more because that's getting a little brand change. So again, letters of recommendation, just please give us enough time to get that taken care of for you. Some of the great things about living where we live are just the sheer amount of great institutions we have around us. One of them being SWIC. You know, you may have already taken some dual credit courses through SWIC. Some of you are looking towards it. One awesome thing that they offer is the top 20% of our graduating class get to attend for free. So I don't know about you, I would rather spend some time at SWIC for my first 2 years as opposed to shelling out $40,000 at a four-year institution. If I could go back in time, I would totally do that. So please make sure you're kind of keeping an eye on your percentage, and we'll help you out with that too. If you don't know, we can always look that up. SWIC also has a lot of agreements. They have this great dual admissions program with a lot of our schools in the area. Edwardsville, Carbondale, McKendree, Webster, and Eastern Illinois all have an agreement with them where you can apply for both and you get admitted to both. Start your first 2 years at SWIC, easy transfer into the next of your four-year program at the new school, and you have access to counselors at McKendree while you're going to SWIC, which is awesome. It'll help you with any kind of transfer grades that you have, because that's kind of one of the stickier bits, is making sure that the classes you're taking at SWIC transfer into your new school. So you're always going to want to check with your four-year college just to make sure that your classes you're transferring meet their requirements. Some of the top admissions mistakes. So poor grades senior year. Boy, the senioritis starts earlier and earlier every year that I'm here. I have some kiddos who have done amazing things, and then all of a sudden senior year starts and things just kind of go down. And it's especially evident when they get admitted to a college. So keep an eye on that. Make sure your grades are still looking awesome. And that kind of goes with not taking your courses and grades seriously. You are getting ready for college. It's no longer just senior year. This is pre-college planning. Following the pack. Well, my best friend's going to this school. I have to go to that school. Be your own person. This is the time for you to grow and learn about yourself and move on and see what else is out there. Not researching enough and not visiting. We kind of talked about that before. You really don't want to be surprised if your dorm room overlooks a cemetery. True story. At McKendree, their dorm overlooked a cemetery. It would freak me out. Couldn't do it. But you want to make sure that where you're going fits your vibe. If you're kind of more a big city person, you look forward to nightlife, then those big city schools are going to be great, but you will not enjoy going to a school that's in the middle of nowhere. So being able to see yourself in that place makes a world of difference. Believe there's only one right college. I had guilty of that when I was a senior in high school. I thought, I'm only going to McKendree because my best friend's going, because they had a bowling team, and they're the best. I didn't look at any other schools. I didn't apply to any other schools. I could have done better. Believing in good or bad colleges. There's no good or bad colleges. It's for your fit. I love McKendree. Don't laugh at me. I see you guys. It was good for me in the long run. But there are no good or bad colleges. It's all about fit. I'm not considering private because of cost. I think there's this kind of belief that a private college is going to be expensive. Sure, some of them might have a higher cost, but you might be able to get a little bit more financial aid from them. So it's a good opportunity to look at. Not putting your all into the essay. They get your transcript. They see you on paper. Is that going to be enough for them to know whether or not you're going to make a difference at their school? In your essay is your time to shine. Show them what they are missing out on if they don't take you. Put that cool thing that you did 2 summers ago for volunteering in there. Put whatever makes you uniquely you. Careless or incomplete applications, we covered that one. Your name's not on the paper. Where does it go? Trash, I see. You got it. Not managing your time. So again, freaking out because of deadlines, not getting everything done, rushing to get everything taken care of, it's not going to look good. Letting someone else complete your applications. Parents, I feel you. I'm a mom of a senior too. It is so hard to let go of some of that, but you have got to let them kind of spread their wings, be there helping them out, look over stuff for them, but it's kind of time to let them shine. Forgetting that all acceptances are provisional. We all hear horror stories about students who have acceptances into college and scholarships, and one mistake can cost them that all. So be aware that what you're doing now, what you do in the future, is all contingent on you being the best version of yourself. And then applying to colleges you have no interest or won't attend. It's not really fair for that poor person reading your admissions if you absolutely don't even want to go to that place. So please make sure you are looking at your colleges in that whole roundabout situation. Make sure that you are applying to the right college for you, and make sure that this is something you want, because they're going to tell. Okay, our NCAA athletes. Do we have athletes in here? Okay. So NCAA, by this point, you have had to have heard about it. NCAA is the group of people that oversee athletes, or student athletes, put that way, and make sure that you are not just going to school to play sports, that you're a well-rounded person with your academics as well. Other schools are NAIA, so if you've heard a lot of these, you kind of get to know them. Ultimately, you're responsible for making sure your requirements have been met. That includes the type of classes you've taken, your GPA, test scores, which have recently gone out, I believe. So you can send everything to NCAA, NAIA directly from ACT or College Board. You're going to request that your transcript gets sent as well. And on their clearinghouse, if you have not already put together your personal profile, you really need to get going on that, because it is a little bit of a putting in your grades and making sure everything's taken care of. Okay, so our website is my baby. I am the one that's in charge of the website. I try having Miss Olson do it, but she says no. She says, that's all you. Our website has so much information on it, not only for you in this moment, but it can even be for your siblings, your friends. It is basically us online. We've got academic stuff on there, so there's graduation requirements, websites for test prep, course offering guide, summer opportunities, our AP information. If you don't know, you have summer AP homework that you have to do, juniors, so keep an eye on that. Great opportunity too. There's also links to the classroom, so if you weren't able to get that slide before, go in the classroom, you can do it. Personal and social resources. You as parents, if you're struggling with anything, we have a lot of information on there that you can take a look at. We've got contacts to agencies, support groups. For post-high school planning, that's the biggest one. If you haven't already grabbed it yet, the Senior Survival Guide is going to be your go-to resource. So on there, it's got basically everything we talked about today, as well as some extra opportunity for you to know, okay, it's October, what should I be doing? Which is what a lot of people question. We got information to research careers, colleges, NCAA stuff, the military. In that packet for Senior Survival Guide, there is even links for our different unions that are local. So if that's the route you're thinking about going, contact information's there. Scholarships are also there. That is a big one. That is probably the most talked about thing in my office, is where do I find scholarships? We have thousands of scholarships listed on our website. We have them listed by month. So if you don't know what's going on, you know what? It's August. Let me hop on there real quick and see what's coming up. We have it listed by disability, by majors, by minority, by extenuating circumstance. We have local scholarships listed in their own specific section. So if you get overwhelmed, start at the local scholarships. Those are going to give you the most opportunity to get them and, most money in your pocket. We also have links to other scholarship websites as well. Going Mary is a great thing. You create your own personal profile, and it will send you scholarships that it's like, hey, by the way, Melissa, you applied to this one. These other 5 scholarships would also be interesting to you. Our virtual calming room is something that we built up during the pandemic. It is a great space if you just need a break throughout the day. There's different things you can check out on there. We've got calming activities, we've got yoga videos, and not just for high school kids, we have Spider-Man yoga. So if you just feel the need to break out a little stretch, go for it. There's also resources on there for our physical and mental health needs. So if you are struggling with that too, there's links to counselors on there. Awesome opportunity to take a look at all that. That's it.
Good job. Sorry. Okay. All right. So she talked about scholarships a little bit. There's tons, like she said, on our website. There's also other places you can find scholarships, like where your family banks, where the parents work, different clubs. The colleges that you're applying to have their own scholarships. And then, like Mrs. Beeple was saying, Go Mary, Naviance, there's all kinds of places to find scholarships. So although there's no easy way to do scholarships, you do have to put in some work for those. There are tons of them available. We've talked about this a little bit already, but visiting colleges is so huge, like we've been telling you, to get on campus and to make sure it's a good fit for you. And so I know even I have students who will be like, I've seen SIUE, I've been there, but it is really important to set up a college visit. So letting the college know that you're planning to attend and setting it up where you can talk to their admissions office, financial aid, make sure you're getting a full campus tour so that you can see inside the housing, classrooms, and different departments. You can even set up appointments with your major and instructors and department heads there. And then also any other clubs, sports, or activities you're involved in, you can talk to the people in charge of those so that you can find out more information to make sure that that college is a good fit for you. We even allow students 2 days with permission slips. As long as it's completed in advance, they get 2 college day visits. So you can get on campus, see it with your own eyes. There's even a lot of colleges have open house days. So sometimes on certain weekends or even on school holidays where you're not in school at all, that's times that you can go to those college campuses and learn more about them too. So to get that permission slip for your 2 college visit days, the student will just need to pick that up at the attendance office, and they need to turn it in at least 1 day in advance. So the student is responsible for making up all their work, of course, but they have those 2 days they can go. So this is an example of a form. As you can see, you just want to make sure that the student signs it, the parent signs it, and then it's turned in at least 1 day before the visit. And if you can't make it on campus to those colleges, luckily, there's tons of places to explore colleges virtually online. So you can join their email list and get information that way. You can talk to people at the schools, anyone that you know personally who is attending. You can kind of get some inside information from them and learn more about the school and the campus. You can check the stats and demographics to see what the campus kind of looks like that way. Social media, you can find out a lot of information. There's even virtual Q&A panels. There's chats and sessions that way. And then there's even places that you can tour campus virtually. So campustours.com and uvisit.com, you can actually look at over 2,000 schools worldwide and get a virtual tour of their campus. Okay, and then also we are here with you all on this journey. So we are going to be working with your students individually and in groups. Next week we start presentations for our students in the classroom. There's going to be college visits. We're going to have workshops to help you figure out with all the financial aid information. So just know that your students can also schedule an appointment with us, and we're happy to help any way we can. So reach out and let us know if you need anything.
Okay, we're almost done. We got about 5 more slides, and we're going to get to the SR, SLU's financial aid presentation. So 2 important things I'm going to talk about. This is one of them. So every year for the past 3 or 4 years, we've had what is known as an on-site admission. That event is going to be October 6th. We're going to be going into world history and world geography classes next week to talk about this event. And what this is it's ran very much like a college fair. All the schools listed will attend the event. What will happen is our students are going to apply in advance of that date. On that day, they will hear from the colleges if they're admitted and potential scholarship applications or scholarship award. And then also all the fees to these schools will be waived as well. We had over 100 students take part in this process last year. Some of the schools gave out t-shirts and whatnot, but you can apply to any of these institutions. You can apply to all of them, one of them. It's really up to you. Again, we'll be giving more information to the students next week, so definitely be on the lookout for that. The way it works is we'll send you a Google form. You'll just sign up to the schools that you want to go visit, and then we'll call you up to the library to have you fill out the applications. So, and this presentation is being recorded, so if you miss any of the slides, it will be posted on our website. We'll also be helping students during the month of October and November and December in the library during the study hall times, lunch and study hall times. So if you have questions about applications as far as colleges, scholarships, financial aid, whatever you need help with, definitely come see us. We'll be there all day from 10 to 1. And then in October, we will be in the vocational lab as well. I know Ms. Beal talked about the Writing Center. It did get a new name, but this is the contact information for the Writing Center. So if you have any questions or need any help with applications or essays or even your senior comp class or your AP English 4 class, this would be your person to see. I'm kind of going through this kind of fast because we're running out of time. Second important thing, tonight is all information. We're just going to give you information about financial aid and how it works. On December 7th, what we're going to do, as long as the application is open, you're able to come back and actually complete your financial aid application. So as long as you bring all required documentation, we will fill out the application that night. You will leave with it submitted, as long as the application cooperates. So definitely important to write that date down. At 6 o'clock, we will be in the library. We hope all that you can attend, and again, where you will actually complete the application. We have another great resource that comes to our school. Dominique Newton is from the St. Louis Scholarship Foundation. They do 3 things there. They help with financial aid applications. They also have a scholarship program, and they have a student loan program as well. Their loans are interest-free. So the governmental loans that Slou's going to talk about tonight some of them are and some of them are not. So she is also a great resource as well. She is here once a week. We have not nailed down the date, but she will be in our office. So, and without further ado, Ms. Hannah Smith from SLU is going to come and talk about financial aid. Hey.
All right, y'all have been sitting a long time, so if you want to stand up, stretch a little bit, do a little fire drill, change seats. No? Come on. Okay, let's do it, because we're going to talk about financial aid for the next 30 minutes. So you want to get your brain waking up a little bit, just stand and stretch. Scream if you'd like to. Okay, we'll let folks trickle back in as they would like to, but as your lovely counseling team said, my name is Hannah Smith. I'm from St. Louis University, Student Financial Services, and we're going to chat about financial aid. So hopefully it won't be too terribly painful for you. We're going to give you a lot of good information that you can take to generally the financial aid process as you're kind of navigating with you and your students throughout the course of this next year or next couple of years, as you try and figure out how to finance your students or your education if you're going on to college. So we'll talk about the different types of financial aid, how to apply for those different types of financial aid. We'll kind of dive a little bit deeper into the FAFSA, so that free application for federal student aid. We're going to do an overview of that and some of those big changes that are coming for that 24-25 aid year. We're also going to go through financial aid offers and what those look like from different institutions, what information they're trying to communicate to you, and then what questions to answer or to ask those different schools that you're looking at to make sure that you have all of that information needed to be able to make a really informed college decision for yourself. As you're going into the financial aid process, it's really important to kind of keep these 4 types of financial aid in mind. Really what we're focused on during the financial aid process is these free types of aid. So we call them free aid or gift aid because you don't have to pay this aid back. So this is scholarships that are rewarding your student for something that they've been able to achieve over the course of their high school career. So think about scholarships rewarding academic achievement or extracurricular achievement, things like that. These are, again, monies that you don't have to pay back. So this is just free money that's discounted off of that cost that you're having to pay the school. There also are a certain component of aid called grants. So these are typically need-based that you would apply for through one of the need-based aid applications like the FAFSA or the CSS profile, which we'll talk a little bit later on. These can be from institutions that you're applying to. They can be from the state that you live in or that you're attending college in. They can also be from the federal government. And these different grants from different sources have very different thresholds for that need that they will meet with that different type of aid. So if you're somebody out there saying, okay, we make too much to be able to qualify for federal aid or for state aid, we always recommend families at least first semester or first year fill out that FAFSA, fill out all of the scholarship applications, all of the need-based aid applications, regardless of what you think you're going to qualify for, because you never know, and you want those schools to make you an offer that you can't refuse, basically. In another category, we have self-help aid. So that's aid in the form of loans, which you would have to pay back after you graduate or upon repayment going into effect. These are things like federal student loans, Parent Plus loans, or private or alternative student loans that you would take out to help with that cost of attendance now, and then you would pay back over an extended repayment time. There's also employment opportunities that might be available to you based on need or opportunities on the campuses that you're looking on attending. Those are things like federal work study, or maybe there's an institutional work study program. Federal work study typically does require that you have need, so you would have to file the FAFSA to be eligible for that and indicate yes to that federal work study question that you are interested in working a federal work study job. That work study works a little bit differently than your other types of aid. Those scholarships, grants, and other loans are just going to kind of get added up and come off of your balance as a sum total at the beginning of each semester or year, depending on the school that you're attending. The federal work study or institutional work study would require your student to go out and find a job on campus and work those hours to then be paid like a normal paycheck biweekly, and then they would have the opportunity to put that aid towards the balance at the institution or just use it as discretionary income. When we're in the financial aid process, like I said, we're really trying to go after, in earnest, the gift aid. So chase down as many scholarships as you can, chase as many grants as you can so that you can minimize the amount that you're borrowing and have to repay later. When we're talking about applying for these different types of aid, the big one is the application for admission. So a lot of schools will kind of wrap their application for admission and scholarships into one application. That's a big question that you'll want to ask schools that you're applying to is, are there separate applications for scholarships? As your counselors were talking about earlier, some schools might be test optional for admission, but not for scholarships. And so that's another big distinction that you'd like to make as you're going into the application season, knowing what applications you have to submit and the deadlines that you have to submit them to be able to maximize your chance of receiving admission or scholarships from those schools. The free application for federal student aid, or the FAFSA, is one that you've probably heard quite a bit about. That's really the big need-based aid application that's going to make you eligible for federal aid, state aid, and then need-based aid at those institutions that you're applying to as well. Some schools might also ask you to fill out the CSS profile. This is an additional need-based aid application that does involve a fee. So if you are applying to a school that is asking you to fill out the CSS profile, that's a legitimate application, but you will want to just be sure that your student really would like to attend that school, similar to application fees, before they pay additional money to be able to submit that need-based aid application. When we're talking about the FAFSA, that's out on studentaid.gov. Federal Student Aid has really kind of compiled a lot of their resources for the financial aid process into one website, and that's studentaid.gov. So that's where you can find the FAFSA form, that's where you can apply for a Parent Plus loan, that's where you yourself can manage your loans if you have federal student loans or PLUS loans that you have taken out parents. This is also where you'll come back to complete the aid process, students. So you'll have to sign a master promissory note and complete loan entrance counseling if you're wanting to take out those federal student loans that you're eligible for just by filing the FAFSA. But you can find it pretty easily on that website. It's just FAFSA form on the main page, complete the FAFSA. Now, who has filed a FAFSA before? Okay, a few of you. So typically in the past, FAFSAs have opened in October and been available for students to fill out in October of their senior year. This year is a little bit different because there's lots of changes coming to the 24-25 FAFSA form. So this FAFSA that seniors will be filling out this year for next fall will not be open until December. And really the only information that we have from Federal Student Aid is that it is going to be open in December. So we don't know if that's the 1st or the 15th or the 30th. We do know that it is required that they open the application on or before January 1st of 2024. So that at the very least, it's going to be open January 1st. So it could be available in December, and typically first come, first serve for need-based aid. So you want to file it as quickly as you can, as soon as you have all of that required materials that are compiled to be able to file that form. Similar to application deadlines and scholarship deadlines and things like that, schools might have some priority deadlines for the FAFSA as well to be put in the pool for need-based aid. So you want to make sure that those deadlines are on your radar as well. Because of the FAFSA opening in December, a little bit later, February 1st or March 1st might be pretty common priority deadlines to have that FAFSA filed for this year. Helpful hints when you're filling out the FAFSA. So for seniors this year, you're going to be filing the 24-25 FAFSA that's going to be opening in December or January. It's going to ask you for tax information based on prior years. So the tax information that you're going to be reporting on the 24-25 FAFSA is from 2022. So the taxes that you likely just recently filed a couple months ago. Even if you have an extension and you're filing your taxes in October, they should still be filed by the time that you file the FAFSA. So you'll have to have that tax information to be able to have the information to formally sign and submit the FAFSA. Before you are able to fill out the form, both the student and the parent, one parent that's listed on the FAFSA, will need an FSA ID, Federal Student Aid ID. That's essentially a login to the Federal Student Aid page. And parents, if you have loans of your own or have a Parent Plus loan that you've taken out or you've signed a student's FAFSA in the past, you already have an FSA ID. That FSA ID is tied to your social security number, so you have one for life. There is a way to recover it if it's been a while since you've created that account and don't remember your credentials there, but it will be that same login information. There is something called the Direct Data Exchange within the FAFSA form. This is formally known as the IRS Data Retrieval Tool for anybody that's filled it out before. This Direct Data Exchange is pretty similar. It allows the IRS to port in that information into the FAFSA form so you don't have to manually key in all of your income and tax information from your 2022 taxes. This is highly, highly, highly recommended. If you are eligible this year, it's going to basically require you to do the Direct Data Exchange to make sure that the information that's in the FAFSA form is accurate and correct as of the day you file the FAFSA. Every single question will have a little question mark bubble next to it that will tell you a little bit more information about why they're asking that question and where to find the answer to that question for you yourself. So a lot of that tax and income information, we don't look at those forms every single day. So trying to figure out what box you put from your W-2 on a specific field can be pretty daunting. Use those help tools and it gives you little screenshots that shows you with a little red box, here's the box that you look at to put that number in this field on the FAFSA. So definitely use those help tools as you're going throughout the FAFSA form. If you filed the FAFSA before, there are going to be some big changes that you're seeing this year. Namely, the output of the FAFSA form in previous years has been called an expected family contribution, or EFC. This year, it's changing to Student Aid Index, or SAI. And previously, with the expected family contribution, it's been on a scale of 0 to 999,999 based on your asset and income information for the parent and student. This year, the SAI, or the Student Aid Index, can be as low as negative 1,500. So it can actually go below 0 to let the government and the state and the institutions that you're applying to know that you have a really, really high need to be able to get additional aid to help with your costs of attendance. This year, also, something that's new is that students will be able to get in and start their FAFSA form and then add contributors, which are parents, to the FAFSA to be able to alert you that you have information that you need to contribute to their FAFSA form. So parents, your students will put in your information. They need to know your name, your date of birth, your social security number, and an email. And then you'll get an email asking to be a contributor to your student's FAFSA, where you can log in with your FSA ID and put in all of the information that they need from you, the tax and income and asset information from 2022. Family size, so how many are in your household and how many are in college, are going to be determined based on how you file your taxes. So in 2022, it's going to ask you how many dependents you claimed on your taxes, and that's going to be the amount that gets factored into your family size. Now, we know that this is not a perfect science, and maybe, if it's a divorced parent situation where you kind of trade off claiming the child every other year on your taxes, things like that, things could fluctuate a little bit based on that family size. So there will be an opportunity to edit that number. How that looks exactly, we don't know quite yet. But using that Direct Data Exchange, it will pull in the amount that are in your family. And then, like I said, you'll have the opportunity to edit that information if necessary. Oops. So the SAI, the Student Aid Index, is going to be based off of the tax and income information from both the student and the parent that's listed on the FAFSA. And you might see that some questions are a little bit different from year to year, and some questions are still going to be asked but not factored into that Student Aid Index. Namely, the number of students in your household that are in college is no longer going to be factored into that Student Aid Index. So schools individually will have to determine how they're handling that for families moving forward. If you're wondering who the parent is that you are supposed to claim on the FAFSA form, there's a little flow chart that helps you figure out who exactly is your parent when you fill out the FAFSA. So if your parents are married to each other, both are going to be on the FAFSA form regardless of how they filed taxes in 2022. If they're married as of the day that you file the FAFSA, both parents will go on the FAFSA form. If the parents are not married but live together, still both are going to go on the FAFSA form. If they're not married, they don't live together, this is actually last year's information. Previously, it was asking which parent you lived with more over the last 12 months, and that was the parent information that you reported on the FAFSA. New for 24-25, it's going to be the parent that financially supports the student more than 50% is going to be the parent that goes on the FAFSA. If parents are not married and not living together, it'll be the parent that supports them financially. It will also have this information within the FAFSA form, so you'll have this prompt once you get to the parent section to be able to determine, okay, now that I have this information, who goes on my FAFSA form? After you file the FAFSA, you are going to get that output of that student aid index that's going to essentially give you a number of your need-based aid eligibility, and it's going to pretty immediately spit out the federal aid that you would be eligible for as well. So it'll tell you immediately if you qualify for a federal Pell Grant or if you qualify for the federal student loans, and it'll show you what that student aid index is. From there, those institutions that you've applied to and been admitted to and share your FAFSA information with are going to put together a financial aid offer for you. So I like to always make this distinction when we go into talking about financial aid offers, the difference between direct cost and cost of attendance. So as you're out there on university websites looking at tuition and fees, you're likely looking at those direct costs. Those are things like tuition that's going to be charged, mandatory fees, room and board if your student is living on campus. That's what's actually going to be billed through the student account, what's going to be owed to the university that your student is attending. There's also something called cost of attendance that includes all of those billed costs and a series of estimates for things like books and supplies, personal expenses, transportation expenses, things like that. These estimates are given to all students, and so they can differ wildly based on your actual student, how much they're eating on campus versus off campus, or if they're a commuter student, if they're living at home, they're going to be spending more on gas than a student that's living on campus. Similarly, if you have students that are living off campus and trying to use aid to cover living expenses, they might need a little bit more than a student who is living at home, things like that. So you'll see the distinction that schools will make between these direct costs and costs of attendance likely on these financial aid offers. So they'll show you this full cost of attendance, but that, just keep in mind, is usually about $6,000 to $10,000 more than you're actually going to owe the institution. Those indirect costs are good things to kind of keep in mind when you're thinking about family budget, additional costs to consider when you're sending your child off to school, things like books and supplies that they're going to need, or getting them set up in their dorm room for that first Walmart run or Target run, things like that. So important to keep in mind as you get these financial aid offers from schools, and try and compare apples to apples. Because if a school is showing you the full cost of attendance and then another school is showing you only direct cost, you want to be able to factor those indirect costs into both costs so that you have a clear picture of that total cost of attendance that your student is going to incur at any university that they're applying to. These financial aid offers, like I said, typically go out to only admitted students. So once they're admitted to the institution, once the school has the FAFSA information for your student, they're going to generate a financial aid offer for them that shows that cost of attendance or direct cost, all of their scholarships that they've qualified for at that institution, the grants that they've been deemed eligible for, the loans that they would be eligible for, and that realistic kind of remaining balance of what it's going to look like to cost to attend that institution. As you file the FAFSA, you might see that your student is eligible for a certain eligibility amount of federal student loans. These federal student loans are automatic. They don't require a certain income level to be, below a certain threshold, or you to have need at a certain institution. These federal student loans are offered to all students, regardless of income, as long as they file the FAFSA. So you'll have this eligibility based on that application alone. So your student for freshman year will get $5,500 in eligibility in that federal student loan. Now, based on need at their different institutions, they could be eligible for a certain amount of those loans to be subsidized. The subsidy there is that they're not accruing interest while your student is in school. So think about those as subsidized, government subsidy. Government is giving you basically the interest that you would be accruing on those student loans. So there can be a subsidized portion and there can be an unsubsidized portion. These could differ your eligibility based on school. So because this is based on need and based on their cost of attendance, you could be eligible for a portion of your loans to be subsidized at school A and not at school B. Similarly, students can have very different student aid indexes and thresholds, and so maybe if you had an older student that went through and they qualified for subsidized loans, it's not always a sure thing that your younger student would get qualified for those subsidized loans as well. They do have kind of some increasing eligibility as they gain credits, so if your student is taking a lot of dual enrollment credit, or things like that, they could go in with a higher threshold of lending limits for sophomore students or beyond as they kind of continue in their degree. Okay, so in terms of general timeline, so as your counselors are kind of helping you narrow down your list, thinking about where you want to apply, start submitting those applications now. The common application opened August 1. Other applications are likely open now for schools that you are interested in. So get those applications in early so that you can kind of get them off your plate and start enjoying senior year a little bit. Go on those college visits. Make sure that you're really kind of taking the time to narrow down that list and being really intentional about where you want to attend next year. As I said, best information that we have right now is that the FAFSA is going to be open in December, so you can establish those FSA IDs, your login information there, and then file the FAFSA form starting December. And then after the start of the new year, you're going to start getting those offers, those award notices in earnest from the schools that you've been admitted to and that you're sharing your FAFSA information with. Really take the time to look over those in detail and make sure that you are asking those critical questions and looking at those, really comparing apples to apples, because schools are still trying to sell you at the end of the day on attending their institution. And so if they can show you a $0 balance at the end of a financial aid offer, that's going to kind of pique your interest, but make sure that you're really going through those with a keen eye and making sure that you're seeing, oh, okay, they put eligibility for a $40,000 Parent Plus loan, and that's why I have a $0 balance for the year. Making sure that you're really cognizant of the schools that are giving you scholarships, that are giving you aid to show that they're interested in you attending their institution. May 1st, make that college decision, get your deposit, your enrollment deposit in, and start accepting your financial aid and kind of making a plan to pay for your degree. One thing that I think is really helpful for families at this point in the year is sitting down as a family and having a realistic talk about whose responsibility it is to pay for a student's education, and that looks different for every single family. So I think it just helps kind of manage expectations for both you and the student moving forward, knowing, look, we can contribute this much, but after that, you're on your own, or, we're gonna 100% financially support you for whatever decision you make. Those are very different college searches. So I think what I see most often is a lot of students will kind of self-select out of institutions because they think it's too expensive or they don't want to put a burden on their family or their finances. But institutions that have a high sticker price can still be really attainable for students through good financial aid. So having some realistic expectations and having that support along the way can be really helpful for families as well. With that, we are here to help regardless if your student is interested in St. Louis University or not. We are happy to be a financial aid resource if you have additional questions about anything that we talked about tonight or anything above and beyond that related to your specific circumstance that you kind of want to talk through. So I'm happy to kind of stay in front of the stage at the end and answer questions as y'all filter out. But thanks so much for bearing with me and talking financial aid on a Wednesday night. Hope it was helpful, and good luck in your college search. Thanks, y'all.